Well, top of the morning to all of you, and welcome to a brand new day. Well, just like every other kid, I also once dreamt of having the superpower to do everything, or to at least multitask effortlessly. Become the school person who can juggle multiple roles. But what if I tell you that I know someone who embodies this description and is living that dream life right now? Imagine a person who's not only an actor, but also a ninja. Sounds awesome, right? A ninja. A remarkable figure who has redefined the very fabric of higher education and whose career is filled with phenomenal achievements, from spearheading Colorado Mesa University to leading Finlandia University with his unparalleled vision. By now, you all must be ready to meet a personality like him. Any guesses? Exactly.
Are you referring to Mr. Timothy Pinnow?
Spot on, sweetheart. Hold on to your seats and prepare to be dazzled as we embark on an exhilarating journey to inspiration and revelation. Join us in giving a thunderous welcome to the dynamic visionary, Mr. Timothy Pinnow. It's a pleasure to have you, sir.
That was a lovely introduction by Ojasvi, and it was nice to get to know you a little bit better. But in your own words, if you want to tell us your life's journey, what's gotten you to where you are right now?
Well, my name is Tim Pinnow. I come from a place in the United States. I was born in a state called Wisconsin, which is up in the north, right in the center. And I was born in a very small town and mostly farmers around. And when I then went to college, and I thought I was going to be, first I thought I was going to be a choir teacher. And then I had a class that made me think I shouldn't be a choir teacher. And then I decided I was going to be a psychologist. And I was working on my psychology degree, and then along came this thing called theater. And there I got a degree mostly in doing things like Shakespeare, acting in Shakespeare. And so then I became an actor for a while in the theater, which not unlike your sand artist, it is not easy to make a living or become an artist in the US. It is not an easy living at all. You have to be very resilient.
Today.
We're going to do that a lot. Resilient.
Today.
Sustainable.
Tomorrow.
There we go. And so after that, after I was an actor for a while, I became a professor of acting at colleges and universities. Worked at a lot of different kinds of colleges and universities, big ones, small ones, private ones, public ones. And then about a decade ago, decided to change yet again and go into administration and learn to run universities. And so, and that's what brings us to today.
Well, Tim, I want to ask you, you seem to be embracing change very often.
Yes.
Anytime you get comfortable, you're like, I need to figure out how to get uncomfortable now. What is this need for discomfort and change?
It's probably a character flaw. But I do believe in that, actually. I believe that at any given moment, I should be finding a new challenge. I believe that at any time, I ought to have something that I'm really working on that's really pressing me. I tell all the people that I hire as employees, I tell them, I expect you to fail often. If you are not failing often, you are not trying your hardest. So the more that you fail, the more you learn and the more you succeed.
Definitely. I think for all of us, failure has been one of the best teachers in life.
I failed so many times, all I got was arrears. I didn't get success still. But on the note that probably we are looking at them and saying you're the leaders of tomorrow, you are the future of tomorrow. Let's talk about academics, let's talk about education as such. Indian education and international education, that somehow has been divided or treated very, very differently. I'd like your opinion on what is the difference, what are the pros and cons, and how is the syllabus today, if you can differentiate between the international education and the Indian education.
If there's one thing I would say about and again, I'm not an expert in Indian education, so please don't be offended, but as I meet Indian students, I've been in India for 10 days this time, and we've been meeting students all along, and the one thing, it's sort of what you already said, which is everybody believes that there's an answer to the test, and if I get the answer right, everything is going to be good. Right? As you said, in school, you study to take an exam, and in life, you get the exam first and the lesson later. In life, our world is changing so rapidly that it's hard to keep up. Right? 1903 in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, the Wright brothers flew the first powered airplane. It flew for all of about about 75 meters. It flew for 15 seconds. At a speed of about 6 kilometers an hour. Fast forward 120 years, and if you have enough money, you can become a tourist in space. And the speed of that innovation and change is getting faster. And so, rather than teaching to a point where you know answers, you have to teach to a point where you know the questions, because the answers will be outdated.
I absolutely love that. And while we're discussing institutions being nurturing environment for future leaders, at SSVM, what I like is they're absolutely open to suggestions from experts. You've just had a tour. Do you have a suggestion for a program, anything interesting they can try and do? And I promise you, before your next visit, it will already be done.
Well, I would actually say, ma'am, you already spoke about it, which is you have the opportunity here now to take college classes from the U.S. college, right? And to see what a college class in the U.S. is like. And that does several things for you. One, it gives you a chance to understand how perhaps the classroom environment is a little different, how we do things perhaps a little differently. How we maybe expect more interaction in the classroom, perhaps. And so that's a wonderful opportunity for all of you that you can do and get a chance not only to know a professor in the U.S., but also know what it's like in a U.S. classroom, and also have some credits that you can take away if you decide to go to the U.S. and study that will work anywhere.
But what is the future of education in terms of method, in terms of mindset? When the world is changing so much, what we studied should change, how we study should change.
In terms of where education is going, education in the U.S., and I think perhaps India from the way you have described it to me is maybe even more so this way. For the last 150 years in the United States, education has been based on a model where, I'll call it a privilege model. It's a model where you send your students to us, they sit at our feet, and we tell them things. It's the model of the lecture. It's the model of a lot of people sitting in a room just listening and then going off and trying to learn stuff from books. That model no longer works. It really never worked to the best of its ability, but the reason it doesn't work now is because the body of knowledge is so vast that there's no way that we can teach you everything. Not to mention, we don't need to teach you facts and dates and formulas anymore because each of you has one of these. And you can just look it up. So what we have to do is teach you how to think, teach you how to prepare for a world where we don't even know the questions yet. And that will change us from a model of privilege to a model of resource. In other words, at any point in your life, when you need to reskill or retool because your job perhaps went away, or if the example I use now is if I 10 years ago had learned to be a coder, it would have been a very, very good job. Now, with AI, I'm not sure I would plan on a career as a coder, right? Because AI can do that very well. So that means I've got to learn to do something new. So we want people throughout their lives to say, I need to learn something new. Now I can go to the university or the college, maybe take one course, maybe take three, whatever it is. And so we need to become that resource for people whenever they need it, not when we want them to have it. And I think that's the future change in education.
Timothy, sir, as we speak about this, a student is always as good as his or her teacher.
Hopefully better.
In my case,
That's
no.
what great teachers do.
But tell me a bit, when we talk about what students should be prepared for, let's flip the coin a bit. Because this is about transformation and it's a two-way communication. So let's talk about the teachers here. Are the teachers supposed to be differently equipped, better equipped? Is the teaching method to change? Let's talk about from their point of view.
The teaching methods are certainly changing and changing rapidly. Now, in the US, we begin to see a lot, because of the rise of technology, COVID made this even more significant because we all learned that you can learn some things online, maybe not everything, and maybe not as well, but online can be used. I take my own theater classroom. I cannot teach acting very well online. I just can't do it. I have to see them in person at some point. But when I teach the history of the theater, if I teach it online, I can send the students out to get a virtual tour of the first theater in Epidaurus in Greece. Actually, I think that's in Turkey these days. But they can actually go there and see what a production looks like in an ancient Greek theater, which is something I could never do 15 years ago. So leveraging technology is one thing that's different. One of the things I think will happen is that what will become even more important is the person-to-person, the teacher-to-student interaction that can happen in person. So we don't waste time giving long lectures if we don't need to, because you can watch the lecture on YouTube, right? But then the way we can use the class time is in small group projects, in discussion, in those things that really build critical thinking skills. And then it becomes the teacher's job to help foster the creativity and innovation. And I'm going to give you one example, because I said yesterday I was actually going to do something. So I'm going to stand up. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you an object. Oh, please, 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 you can do this too. In fact, this is a test. Okay. All right, so I'm going to show you an object, and what I want you to do is I'm going to give you 1 minute, and I want you to think of how many different uses there are for that object, and just count the number. And the object we're going to use is my pen. So for example, this can be a writing object, right? But it can also be a dart. It can also be a weapon. Not him, her. Yeah. So I want you to take 1 minute and think of as many things that this pen can be as you possibly can. Ready? Go. Wow, you're quiet. Either you're thinking or you've given up. Okay, now everybody stand up. All right, now you have a number in your head of things that you came up with. When I say your number, of the number that you got, I want you to sit down. Okay? We're going to see who's left standing at the end. Ready? 1. If you came up with only 1, sit down. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Oh, wow.
8, 9. Oh, got 1. Okay, a few still standing. 10. 11, 12, 13.
Rajiv, why are you still standing? You should have sat down at 3.
Very, very well done. So I always tell students that whenever I do, I call it the pen exercise, but I pull out something else. You want to be able in a minute to try and come up with about 10, because that forms new pathways in your brain. You look at the object in a new way.
I love that.
Mr. Timothy, we in India, we have this thing for the past couple of years at least. The made in India. We have this thing that everything should be made in India, use India, sustainability as we speak about as well. Do you ever see this vibe, or why is it that we don't have a study in India concept? As per records, it is the last decade or so that we have so many Indian youngsters who are looking overseas. They want to study abroad overseas. Does that mean we need more institutions like SSVM to hold them back in India? Or what is it there that probably is urging them to go there and maybe create a study in India, faith or a movement?
We need an SSVM college or a university.
Open
That
couple of
is what
branch.
we're talking about. But I apologize for adding to your plate, man, but over to you.
Everyone from every country should try and study abroad for at least a short period of time. And the reason is it's back to that innovation and creativity thing. There's I wish I could remember it right now, there's a wonderful journal article, some research that was done in the Journal of Personality Psychology, I believe, where one of the things they found, they were trying to figure out what gives people an open mind, an ability to see new things and have new perspectives and come up with new ideas for old problems. And there are a number of things they listed. One of them, by the way, with your theme today, is spend time in nature. Sit under a tree and you are likely to be more innovative than if you are sitting in a man-made space. But the other thing that for this application is they found that students who studied abroad, whether they were going, whether it was students coming to the US or US students going abroad, that they all had more open minds and were capable of more creative thought when they came back from that. And so I would argue that everyone should try and do that at some point in their life.